Hello, everyone. My name is Mihiran Leila, and I'm the president and founder of Community Tree. Today, I have a very special guest here with us. Her name is Clare Quirico. She is a career coach at the Career Paths for Skilled Immigrants Program at Douglas College. Thank you, Clare, for being here with us today.
Thanks, Leila.
I understand that you have been in the career development field for over 5 years with a background in marketing, and you've also been a new immigrant in Canada, migrating here from the UK 6 years ago. So I know that you know exactly how it feels to start a life in a new country and just kickstart your career in a new country as well. And that's why you're so passionate about helping other newcomers to do the same. So today I'm really excited to pick your brain about how to best prepare for an interview. And we have 5 frequently and commonly asked questions that we would like to ask you to get your expert insights. Are you ready for that?
I am. Yeah.
Awesome. So let's get started. What are the key information that someone should research about the company before they go into an interview?
Okay. I think it's really important to understand the company's vision and goals, and not just understand it, but think about where are you aligned? Where do you have similarities with your own goals? Spend some time on their website and research as much as possible about the products and services that they offer, and think about what appeals to you so that you can share that information with them in the interview.
Right.
You might also want to do some research around the interviewers. Perhaps use LinkedIn to explore what's their background and what are their roles, because that might help you have a better understanding about the questions they're going to ask and questions you might want to ask them as well.
Right. Great tips. Anything else?
Yeah, networking is really, really important. If you know anyone who is working at the organization or someone that knows someone that is, see if you can arrange an informational interview to learn more about the company from someone who's on the inside. So just a word of caution, there are lots of review sites like Glassdoor out there. Have a look at them, but don't worry too much if you see some negative reviews. People do tend to leave more negative reviews than good reviews. So perhaps hold off on looking at that in too much detail and instead make your own opinions of the organization when you go for the interview.
Those are some really great insights. So when you're walking into an interview, typically the first question when it starts is tell me about yourself. You know, a lot of people might dread this question because it's so open-ended. How do you, give us some tips on how we can answer that question in the best possible way?
Yeah, it can be really tricky to answer, especially because you're usually really nervous at the start of the interview and you can easily get tongue-tied. So I think it's really important to always prepare to be asked this question and practice your answer beforehand. Try not to memorize your whole answer, as it can sound a little bit robotic. But instead think, okay, I've got about 90 seconds to respond. Think about why they're asking you the question and what sort of things they're going to be looking for in the candidate that they're interviewing. And then focus on your relevant education, experiences, and the strengths and accomplishments you have. But really think about what is the most relevant information for the job that you were applying for. And then tell them what your goals are, or maybe think about explaining what has led to you to applying for the job, so that you can tell them a little bit more about how you've got to this point today. It's usually better to keep things a little bit more professional, talk about professional aspects of yourself rather than focusing too much on personal interests. And if you're looking for a career change and you're applying for a job that's a bit different from what you've done in the past, really think about where are the skills that are transferable and focus on those elements so that the interviewer gets a better idea of how your previous experience is going to make you a good fit for this position.
Awesome. That's great. So next question is, often an interview consists of technical questions and behavioral questions. So for those behavioral questions, how can I best prepare for answering them?
Mm. They're really quite common in interviews in Canada. And just so you know, and it's where they'll ask you to tell you about, they'll ask you a question such as, tell me about a time when you've had to multitask. Give
Yeah.
me an example of a time when you've had to multitask.
Yeah.
So it's important to prepare some examples, have them really fresh in your mind, maybe about 6 to 8 examples from your previous experience. Think about what behavioral questions are they going to be likely to ask. So you can research lists of behavioral questions online and then think which ones sound most relevant to the job that you're applying for. And so when you think about those examples, prepare your story that you're going to tell them. So think about the situation, how you're going to explain the situation that you were in the past, the task that you had to do, and then go into detail about the actions that you had to take to complete that task, because this is where you're really going to bring in the skills that you're going to explain to them. And then really importantly, explain the result or the outcome of that story and make sure it's positive. Even if you're talking about something that, where a mistake was made or something like that, you can always turn it into a positive outcome at the end by explaining what you've learned from that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. That's great. What type of question should I ask the interviewer? We get a chance to often ask them a question because it's a two-way street, right? An interview is not just one-way street. So what are some of good examples of things that we can ask the interviewer?
Yeah, it's a really good idea, I think, to prepare maybe about 5 questions and expect that you'll have time to ask maybe 2 or 3 of those questions. This will usually happen at the end after the interviewer has asked all of the questions that they want to ask. It's good to prepare because you might not always be thinking, able to think on your feet of what questions to ask, but do make sure that you avoid asking any question where the interviewer has already given you the answer beforehand. You want to obviously show that you've been listening during the course of the interview.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the most useful questions to ask are the ones that will help you gain a better understanding of the job and the workplace, so that you can decide whether it's the right job for you and the right employer for you.
Right.
So questions that might be helpful to ask could be, what would an average day look like in this role? This will help you learn more detail about the responsibilities of the position. Or you could ask them what would be their expectations for the goals that they would expect you to be achieving within the first month or the first 3 months, so that you can not only learn more about what their expectations are, but also show that you're really goal-oriented as an individual, which should be an advantage. Mm-hmm. Other questions might be around, will you be working as a team, and how is the team structured? This obviously shows them that you care about your team environment and that you're more of a team player, and will help you understand whether it's actually the sort of environment that you want to be working in. So another word of caution though, avoid questions relating to areas where you're going to be benefiting from the organisation, such as pay and benefits and how much vacation time you're going to be getting. It's important to show the employer that you actually want to be in the workplace and doing the job rather than spending your money on the vacation afterwards.
What about salary? When should we ask this, and what's the good way to bring it up?
It can be a really, really tricky one. And as I just mentioned, it's not usually a good idea to bring up salary in the first interview. It's obviously a really important aspect of your decision about whether you want to accept the job, but perhaps hold off and wait. Instead, you can actually research the salary. Some companies will publish their information about their salary bands if they are fixed, or if the job is a unionized position, then you might be able to find the information through the union's website. And there's also other sites like Glassdoor which do have some information provided by other people who've worked in the organization. So you might be able to get a good idea without actually having to ask right away. Another thing to consider is the whole compensation package rather than just the salary. Many organizations in Canada have good sort of health benefits. They might offer additional vacation days or other benefits, which do have a cost attached to them for the company. So just consider how valuable these sorts of alternative benefits would be to you and your family as well. I think it can be a really good advantage to actually wait until you are offered the job to discuss the salary, because at this point, the organization has decided that you're the best candidate for the job and that they want you to accept the position.
Right.
So they may be a little bit more willing to be flexible on discussing salary at this time. And if you do want to ask them about salary, perhaps avoid asking the direct question, what's the salary for this position? Maybe ask, what's the salary range that is budgeted for this position? Because it'll give you a better idea of whether the manager actually has any flexibility when it comes to the salary. So, but if you're going to ask the question, just be sure to think beforehand about what is actually the sort of minimum salary that you think is reasonable for the position, in case you do have to respond and answer that question as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Claire, for sharing your expertise and your knowledge today. That was very, very informative. So can you tell us a little bit about the Career Paths for Skilled Immigrants Program at Douglas College, and how can we find out more about that program?
Yeah, of course. So the Career Paths for Skilled Immigrants Program is funded by the BC government to help skilled, experienced newcomers find employment that uses your prior education and skills. And at Douglas College, we specifically provide action planning with a career coach, occupation-specific workshops, funding for any licensing or short-term training costs that you incur, and job search assistance. We support professionals from some of the high demand health, education and social services occupations, no matter where the person is living in BC. And we also support newcomers from other occupations who are living in the Tri-Cities and Maple Ridge areas. So you can find out all the information about this and the eligibility criteria on our website, which is douglascollege.ca/career paths. You should be able to find the link below the video. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you everyone for watching. We hope that it was informative for everyone, and please stay tuned for more videos that'll come up on career development and job search in Canada, presented by Community Tree. Thank you.
Thanks.